So why on God's great earth would you buy one of these over a conventional lithium battery for your car? We're about to find out. Here we have the Bluetti AC 240 portable power station. It's 1536 watt hours of usable power, which translates to around about 125 amp hours at 12 volt. So it's about 120, 125 usable amp hours at 12 volt. If you're using more of the inverter power, it's obviously going to use more of that power quicker. But it's still the same watt hours, which is the critical point, which is why all these units are measured in watt hours rather than amp hours, because of all built-in technology, you've got 12 and 24 volt on board in the same unit. It's kind of confusing, I know, but that's why they put it in watt hours instead of just amp hours, because amp hours are measured different at 240 versus 12 volt. Long story, there's smarter people out there than me that figure this stuff out, but that's what I know about it anyway. If I'm wrong, drop it down in the comments, let me know how wrong I am. So thank you for that. Right, so just a really quick run through on this, just to be upfront as well. Bluetti have sent me this to make a video about it. I've had plenty of these things in the past, and I actually quite like them. Do I think they're perfectly set up for me? Not until now. I've always had criticisms about them, and don't get me wrong, this is going to cop some criticism very soon. Trust me on that one. But my circumstances have changed ever so slightly, where I've actually got a proper use for this now, and we're going to run through that very soon. First of all, let's run through some of the features of the unit. So obviously you can turn the power on and off there. You've got 12 volt DC power, so you've got a cigarette lighter and I want to call it a merit plug, but I don't know what it's called, but it's 12 volt 30 amps for there, if the unit actually turns on. I have noticed it does that occasionally. Sometimes I think you have to hold it for a couple of seconds, where the older ones you used to just press it to turn straight on. Beautiful LED to screen, super bright. It does auto turn off, and you can change that around as well in the app. You can turn on and off each individual power. USB section here, so you've got two USB-C sections and two USB-A sections there as well. All with nice waterproof dust covers on there. I believe, and I'll go through this soon, I believe this is almost waterproof as well. So not like submerged, but you can hose it off sort of thing. Don't hold me to that, I'm gonna check. And then on the end here, obviously you've got all your AC power as well. So you have 4 AC out points there, which is tons of power. One of the big advantages I like to the Bluetti over some of the other ones is everything's on the face of the unit. So you can set this in the back of your full drive in the back seat. Everything's there and you can see it clear as day. There's other ones that have everything accessed from the sides. So you've got your AC at one end and DC at the other end. It's very hard to use sometimes, I found. So I've actually offloaded that other one, which had that, because it's very unergonomical to use, where this design where everything's on the face works really well. I'm happy with that. How about we show you how this is actually going to change the way I do a bit of camping. Alright, so for those that don't know, I recently bought an 80 series as a bit of a project car. That sun is really bright. So I bought this 80 series, a bit of a project car to build up to do some of the harder tracks that are out there. And doing harder tracks means you generally got to try and keep the car lighter, which means I don't want to have to put a draw set in. I don't want to have to put a full 12 volt setup in there to still be able to go camping on some of those harder trips. It also means that if I'm at camp and a base camp and we're doing a hard day strip out, I can take all this stuff out of the car, leave it at camp. Fridge can be perfectly safe, so if this thing's sitting on its lid, my beers are still good at camp, and I'll have to walk back, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Having that portability inside the car is going to be a game changer for the way that I camp in this thing. Obviously in Betty, in the 62, I'm still going to stick with the in-house batteries and all the rest of it. I've actually got a new battery going there very soon. But for something like this where I want it to maintain that light lightness and versatility out of the camping setup, 100% I'm using one of these things in this car. I'm going to have one up against, obviously the seats are forward at the moment, I'm going to have one up against the back of the seats, I'm going to put a little strap over it to hold it down, and then just strap down the fridge on the other side. That's it. That's the camping setup. A couple of the expedition boxes that can go on the back for food and bits and bobs as we go. I'm actually excited to use this thing. So like with everything new, people tend to bag it out until they understand it. It's because people are misinformed about things that they start to sort of bag or diss an item because they don't understand what its use is for. People are going to be going, well, all I need to do is run a fridge, or if you want to stay light, you can take an esky. And you're absolutely right, you can. And I'm not discounting those types of appliances as well, but we all camp in different ways, and I fully appreciate the fact that some people still like eskies and some people like a little bit more extravagance. So for me, I don't like carrying gas bottles in the car. I don't like having to sort of carry excess of too much stuff that, unless it's got two uses, tend not to bring it if I can avoid it, because it's just extra weight in the car. Having said that, I have a lot of crap in my car, so probably a little filthy on that one, but that's my goal out of it. But I don't always achieve it, is what I'm trying to say. For me, induction cooking is definitely a priority in the way that I camp, and this enables me to do it without having to buy everything else with it to go with it. So for me to do this properly in a car, like in Betty, I've got my lithium battery, got my inverter, got my battery shunt so I can monitor it. I've got all the cabling, wiring, all the fusing. I've got another 240 volt charger for the lithium, so that way if I'm in a caravan park or at home and the car's just not being used for a while, I can plug that in and keep the lithium charged up rather than just relying on the car if the car's not getting driven for some reason. So there's a lot of expense in that. So in my car alone, there's around about, and I haven't used the cheapest stuff yet, but there's about $6,000 worth of 12 volt accessories in the car by the time you add up all those bits and bobs. These units, granted you can do it cheaper, don't get me wrong, but these units on sale right now until I think the end of the month or end of next month. So I think end of May, but I'll put it down here when it is. These units are normally $3,600 or $3,700. Oh, $3,200. I'm getting everything wrong. And they're on sale now for $2,700 in Australia. So, I'm going to turn this off because that's already boiled, which is nice. So if you wanted to, you can, and this isn't a promo code, this is just Bluetti's having a sale, which is why they send out these units to people, to YouTubers like me. We can promote it for them, and obviously the benefit for us is we get to keep one of these, which is worth a chunk of money. So I'm kind of all for that, to be honest with you. Just being upfront before people start saying, you're just a sellout. No, just trying to make a living here, people. That's all. And genuinely, I actually quite like these units. If I didn't, then I'd just say no to them altogether, because how many battery boxes do I really bloody need, honestly? Okay, so I wanted to do some of the actual math here. Firstly, I managed to write it down on a notepad, and I actually want to know who uses a notepad still instead of their phone. I don't know, I guess I'm still a bit old school that way, where I actually like to write things down and see it right there. I know you see it on your phone. There's going to be some criticism about that, but drop it down in the comments below. Notepad or phone? What do you use? Come on, I want to know what people do. Alright, so I've done some pricing here on if you were going to set up your car versus just buying one of these as a pre-done unit. So this is all sort of middle of the range stuff. There are some cheaper stuff, and there's definitely some more expensive stuff. There's nothing outlandish here for pricing wise though. So working on a 120 amp hour battery, just going with iTech World, it's sort of mid-range. It's not great, they're crap. They're just a mid-range battery. So that's $999, $1,000 for a 120 amp hour battery, which is pretty much the equivalent of what this is. This is technically 125, thereabouts, versus a 120X iTech World battery. From there, this is a 2,400 watt inverter with, I think it's a max of like 3,000 or something watts for a surge period. Could be wrong on that. You can check out the stats yourself. This isn't a stats video. This is trying to bring you some information about what these units are good for. So I've priced it on the 2,000 watt iTech World inverter, $340 for a 2,000 watt inverter. So then you're going to need some way to charge it in your car. So you're going to need a DC-DC charger, so call it a 40 amp charger. $400 for a DC to DC 40 amp charger. AC charging, because this has the ability of being charged on AC, so I've included it in the price. You don't necessarily have to buy this, but trying to compare apples with apples about what you can do out of each unit, this is what I'm trying to do. So an AC charger, which is a 40 amp as well, it is $300 for that. Then you're going to go with cables, fuses, fuse blocks, 12 volt accessories like all your cigarette lighters and your USBs and all that sort of stuff. Being very, very conservative here. I reckon this is probably closer to a whole lot more than this, but I'm saying $300 for cables, fuse boxes, and all that stuff. Honestly, I reckon it's closer to $500, and that's not even joking. Like, this stuff's expensive these days. So based on $300 for cables, fuses, all that, brings the grand total for setting up the car to $2,339. So call that $2,350 plus install. So then, if you're capable of doing it yourself, great, you're awesome, love you. I reckon more people should do their own stuff so they understand if something goes wrong, how to fix it themselves when we're out in the bush. But I understand not everyone's got that ability. So if you're talking about someone else installing that for you, there's easily another $1,000 to $1,500. That's conservative, I reckon, as well, because there's a fair bit of time that goes into 12 volt wiring. Your average auto spark's going to charge $120, $150 an hour. Just what they charge these days. Which, granted, you can find a good one. First class auto electricians, not sponsored at all, but Pete does a lot of my stuff and charges me full price. Absolute legend of a guy, and his work is phenomenal. Don't look at some of the stuff in my car because I've done it myself and it's not representation of Pete's work. But he's fixed up all the crappy stuff that I've done, which is nice. So $2,350 for doing it yourself plus install. The Bluetti unit on sale, $2,700, $2,699. Full retail price is $3,200. So on sale, $2,700. So you're talking $250, $300 difference between buying all the stuff and then still having to install it, versus this where it's done and it's so portable between different devices. So you can take it from car to car, to camping, to boating, to leave it behind. Recently went camping with some friends, and their second battery in their four-wheel drive carked it before we even went away. He knew I had this, and he goes, "Oh mate, can you bring this along? We're just going to use that for the weekend." And we did. He used this for the entire weekend to run his fridge and charge his phones and all that stuff. They don't do induction cooking because they're not set up for it, but this was more than enough to run their fridge, charge phones. They've got a little girl as well. She had a few little toys and stuff that needed charging up, so everything was ran off of this for them. We managed to put this underneath the table, left it at camp. Didn't have to be carried around in the car for the entire weekend we were away, so they had a free car to put more stuff in there, like firewood, bits and stuff. So it was very, very versatile in the way that we could use this, as opposed to something like this sucker, big ass battery that's constantly in your car, which, don't get me wrong, this has definitely got its place, but it's just a different type of setup, and you have to decide what's going to be good for you. I think in my full-time four-wheel drive that's meant for touring and it's pretty much set up for four-wheel driving, 100% I'm going to stick with this. But for the 80 series, I'm trying to figure out a name for it, like Kermit or Gumby. It's green, so I don't know. Same thing, if you've got a name for the 80 series, drop it down in the comments down below. Let me know what you think I should call it. Apart from the big green lump that's currently in my shed not running because reasons. But anyway, what's the 80 series build if you're interested to see about the 80 series as well? There's some interesting content there. So my personal view is I reckon these are really, really good for certain setups. Not for every setup, but man, some of the negatives of them are, and I've said this about nearly every one of these types of units, is they need a bloody Anderson plug on there. So many devices these days, travel buddies, fridges, charging, all the rest of it, run through Anderson. But none of these units across all the brands come out with an Anderson plug yet, and it's very frustrating. To have the ability to fast charge in a car, so if you did buy a separate DC to DC, run it through an Anderson plug and pump 40 amps into this thing while you're driving, that would be the game changer for these types of units, and I think that would go like hotcakes once that's in place. Currently it's only 100 watt 12 volt, which is about 10 amps an hour. It's enough to keep it topped up, but it's not enough to charge it. So as you're driving along, you're kind of using 4 or 5 amps just to run your fridge and stuff anyway. So I think as soon as they upgrade to some sort of fast charging within the car, that's when these things are really going to take off for their versatility and how they work long term for people. That's just my 2 cents. Obviously, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and maybe go buy one of these. They're pretty good. See you next week.